Hey, what's up, guys? So today I'm gonna kind of give you guys a look at my Rakdos Lord of Riots EDH deck. It's another Magic format that I do play. I namely play this with my friends, or just hanging out at each other's house or something. We play EDH, and um, yeah, Rakdos is one of my favorite decks here. It kind of just basically, um, I think, embodies the ideas of EDH, where you are just playing big, cool spells, things like that. Your Rakdos allows you to kind of cheat in a lot of big creatures and make some pretty cool stuff. In case you didn't know what he does, every time your opponent loses a life, um, basically he reduces your creature spells by one generic mana, which is really cool. Meaning we can bring out some pretty big stuff like Eldrazi's, bring out some pretty big boss monsters, I guess, of in the Rakdos color. And yeah, I'll kind of show you my deck. Um, I don't. I started off playing Commander with, I think it was Anjay, the Rakdos vampire from, like, was it Commander 2019, I believe, or so. And yeah, basically, I picked that deck up, kind of started building and collecting a bunch of Rakdos color cards. So my primary colors that I play in EDH is black, red, or And I'm thinking of building a new deck that eventually will add in either white or blue. So either Grixis or Mardu. But yeah, for now I'm just kind of playing with this deck, and it's pretty fun. And yeah, I'll kind of talk about the deck here and share some of my experiences with it, and go from there. So let's go ahead and go off with sort of the quick pros and con of the Rakdos here. So pro of Rakdos is that, yeah, he can cheat in a lot of creatures, and you can kind of swarm the board with a bunch of boss monsters or threats to your opponent. It does, doing that does paint a huge target on your back, and oftentimes people will try to either remove Rakdos or kill you first if you are just um, having all these threats on the board. So that's just the weakness of this deck is just you're gonna be an arch enemy really quickly, and so people are just gonna spend all their resources trying to take you down. The other main weakness is if they are able to take apart your board, it's kind of hard to recover with this deck because um, while it has black, and black allows you to draw and reoccur some stuff, most of the time we want to be casting stuff from our hands because we're playing Eldrazi's. And so if you're reanimating Eldrazi's, you're not really able to get their cast triggers, which kind of not too great. Um, the main weakness of the deck is you have to play a bunch of subpar cards in order to enable Rakdos. What I mean by subpar cards are cards like pingers, um, like things that deal damage to your opponent, and that's all it really does. While dealing damage to your opponent is the main goal of the game, it's kind of sucks because they're really slow and they're kind of weak on their own, and so you have to be able to deal damage and then be able to play Rakdos. Make sure he sticks on the board. If he doesn't stick on the board, he gets removed. Then this deck is really slow because you're stuck with a lot of payoffs. So that's just the main weakness of playing the deck. But if the group you're in doesn't have much interaction, or they don't bother dealing with you, or later in the game they kind of have no answers left because they're trying to deal with everyone else's answer, then that's kind of your time to shine. You'll just kind of blow them out of the water by playing a bunch of Eldrazi's and payoffs and stuff like that. The deck can't really win out like straight out on its own without some infinite combos. There are a few infinite combos in this deck, namely two lines of infinite combos that can end the game really quickly if you feel the need to, or you can play this the long game and just every turn drop a big creature that your opponent has to deal with. So, yeah. So obviously, Rakdos Lord of Riots is the commander. I got like an altar sleeve on top of it, so he kind of looks like a full art kind of card. But yeah, pretty cool here. So I'm gonna kind of break this down to several different. Let's move him over here. Several different based on creature on typing. So let me go ahead and break because it's 100 cards, or I guess 99 cards. It's kind of messy, kind of try to show it all on camera all at once. So let me take out the creatures first, and I'll show you what kind of creatures I'm playing. Yeah, so this deck is heavily creatures. It's got like 30 creatures because you're mainly gonna use your creatures to deal damage, and you're gonna use your Rakdos commander to cheat in these creatures. So majority of it is creatures. Creatures are susceptible to removal. They are plenty of removal in the game that they all kind of deal with creatures. That's just the main weakness of the deck, is that your creature permanents are weak to removal, and so they're easy to be dealt with versus other enchantment types like artifacts, enchantments, or the latter. So the only 1 mana creature I'm playing is the spear skewer here. Yeah, just a pinger. Like I mentioned, not very strong on his own. He's a 0/2, just tap, deal 2 damage. And let me kind of show you some other pingers. This is another pinger. Thermo here. Do play a Darkside Extortionist, really good card. Combos well off with a couple cards in the deck, especially if you have a Ghostband Dragon. Combos off. You can get infinite mana in this deck with Cloudstone Coolio. Coolio? If I'm pronouncing that correctly. So you can generate infinite mana with this card. Obviously one of the best red commander card in the game. So play him. He's namely here to kind of be a more or less a second commander. If you can't get Rakdos to stick, you can play Darkside, get maybe 5, 6, maybe even 10 treasures sometimes, and then just use that to hard cast some stuff. Dalfi good, kind of like unblockable. Mainly you attack with him, he's unblockable. Deal 3, you're able to get out Rakdos. If best case scenario, if your opponent's playing like a zombie deck or something like that, and relies heavily on the graveyard, if they don't have removal for Dalfi, this kind of really hinders them. So kind of a stack card, I guess. Just another pinger here. I don't play too many multicolor cards, so you don't really get to untap him too much, but he's there. Nether Drone. This is also a combo card right here. It's a pinger, but you can also go infinite with this thing. And I'll kind of show you that line of play later. Plague Splitter, just another pinger. Deals with elves and early game mana dorks, kind of funny. Deals with human, tribal tokens, stuff like that. Yeah, overall not a bad card. Sin Prouder, kind of like our reverse Bob. By what I mean Bob is, I mean the Crusader. What's his name? Dark Confidant. There you go. So the reverse Dark Confidant. So you reveal a card. Your opponent can either take that damage or they can leave it to add to your hand. So early game, he also has Menace, so he's able to attack safely for the most part early game, which allows you to bring out Rakdos pretty early. If your opponent takes damage, that's also great for you. And late game, he can help you kind of filter through your deck, because if you reveal a land, most of the time people are going to let you just drop that land into the grave, and you'll just draw another card. So kind of handy that way. This card I'm trying out, it's Fiorin the Voldaren Skarn, whatever his name is. So basically, this is kind of a cool card. It's kind of a draw card, so depending on how much damage you do to your opponent, you can scry, or I guess you can look up that many cards. If you deal 10 damage, you can look at the top 10 cards of your deck and then just be able to play that card. So it's not even cast, it's play. So if you need lands, you can play a land. If you have Rakdos plus this guy and you can try to dig for an Eldrazi, you can cast an Eldrazi for potentially for free. So yeah, Pretty cool card. Ozmaker, kind of to be an early attacker, and also to kind of dump some stuff into the graveyard, and also to draw us cards. So, pretty good early game card. Uh, Pure Recruiter. This is to mainly search out for two cards. It's to search out a Darkside Distortionist, which you know is a good card, and it's to search out this next card right here, Disciple Bolus. So if you're running low on life, or you need to heal, or you need to draw, you can search out this and play it for 1 mana if you have the Rakdos out, and then sacrifice whatever you have on board. I usually sacrifice an Eldrazi, because an Eldrazi will shuffle itself back into the deck, and you could potentially draw it again and recast it. So that's most of the time I'll do that. Unless I can attack with the Eldrazi and win. Otherwise, if I don't think I'll survive next turn or something like that, or I just want to go for real big greed, I'll sack off an Eldrazi or a payoff. This card right here, I think it's Orcus, the Prince of Undead. So he's kind of cool. So he's got X, 2 colorless, and Rakdos. So the way with reduction for X card, if I'm not mistaken, is that, let's say I did 10 damage to my opponent, so I can essentially cast this just for 2 and a black, or sorry, a red and a black, and then declare up to 8, I believe, because you're gonna have to spend reduce the generic cost by 2. I'll just bring it up close to the camera. You're gonna reduce the cost by 2 colorless and then X. So you can declare X has to be 7 or 8 or whatever you want in between that, because that's how much damage you've dealt and that's how much this card is technically reduced by. So you can cast X cards for the X amount of reduction that Rakdos has enabled. Peripherals, also another infinite combo card right here. So the main infinite enabler is going to be this card right here, the Ancestral Statue. So if you don't know what he does, basically when ETBs, you can return a creature card to your hand that you control. So basically you're going to return himself. So the 2 main infinites are going to be with this and Nether Drone. Assuming that you have haste or Nether Drone doesn't have summoning sickness, if you have one of either of these and plus a Rakdos and you have reduction of 4, basically you play him. If you have peripherals, he's gonna deal 2 to everyone. You return it, and you're just gonna rinse and repeat. You're gonna deal 2 each time you cast the Ancestral Statue, and he's gonna bounce himself back. Gonna recast it. Peripherals is gonna do 2 to everyone, all your opponent. Same thing with Nether Drone here. If he doesn't have summoning sickness, you can tap for 1, deal 1 to everyone, play him, untap him, deal another 1. You're gonna return, well, basically gonna return him, play him, kind of rinse and repeat that damage. So that's an infinite way to deal infinite damage. You can also do this with Terror of the Peaks, which I also play in this deck. So that's how this card works. If not, if you really needed to, you can also play this to return maybe an Eldrazi and then recast the Eldrazi. So overall, while it doesn't look like it's much, the Ancestral Statue is pretty handy in the deck. Next off, we got Modern Archaic. It's kind of like another stack card, value card. You're never gonna cast it for the other side, which is, I think it's just a sorcery speed spell. Yeah, you never want to cast it for this. You always want to try to get him out. And what he does is he kind of sometimes helps protect you from counter spells. He gets value if your opponent plays a draw card or something like that. And you just want to copy it, you can draw it. Or if they play reanimation or something like that, you can copy it, do whatever. The one thing he's weak to is board wipes. Obviously, you don't want to copy a board wipe, but I guess you can. But yeah, so pretty good card. Overall, really annoying to deal with. And yeah, here we got Tigrid. Tigrid, not so much synergy with this deck per se. I mean, we are playing some draws and we do have some Annihilator triggers, but for the most part, we combo this off with some of our hand discard effects. And if your opponent discards any permanents, you can take control of it, or if they sacrifice some stuff for like their combos, you can take control of it. It's kind of a stacks card. Pretty good in EDH. A lot of people do play this as their commander. I was thinking about it, but I think it's kind of a little too mean and it's not really that fun. It's kind of annoying too. So I don't mind it in the 99. It's more fair in the 99. But if you want to go for like a kind of a really competitive commander card, this is just making this your commander is pretty powerful. Here you have Sidisi. So Sidisi is pretty cool. She works kind of as a combo in the deck too. What you can do is you can sacrifice an Eldrazi. If you have, let's say you have Rakdos out and you have an Eldrazi, and you have a reduction of 10, you can Sidisi, sacrifice the Eldrazi, and then just research, or the Eldrazi is gonna shuffle itself back in the deck, and then you can just add it back to the hand with the Sidisi by researching, searching it back up, and then just replaying it again. So yeah, CDC, pretty good card. Nahib, kind of like your secondary commander. When you deal damage, you get that X amount of red mana. There are infinites with this. You can do aggravated assault. I decided not to play that infinite in this deck, so I do not play aggravated assault. I do have the card. I just decided not. I didn't want to win that way. So, um, Nahib's really good if your opponent doesn't deal with them. Um, if you can't cast your commander, casting the Hib is just as almost as good as playing your commander. Next here we got the Ghostband Dragon, pretty good. You can smack someone, get a treasure token. Combos off with um, the Dockside Distortionist. Also has haste, can deal damage, and then can cast your commander. Overall, a pretty good card. Same thing here. We got the two dragons that I really like from M21 and Ghostband. You got Terror of the Peaks. Yeah, you can do big damage with him if you have him on the board and you cast a Eldrazi. You can just shoot someone in the face for 10, or you can go infinite with him. Just an overall pretty good card. Here you got Oblivion Sower. Oblivion Sower with Cloudstone, you can go infinite with this thing. So the idea here is, like, if you Bojuka Bob someone's graveyard or their graveyard is removed, you can cast this and then target someone that has a big pile of like um, exiled stuff, and then you can just play all their lands. So you can kind of steal people's land and kind of ramp yourself up. Worst comes to worst, you just play it, and um, kind of play it early, and you can basically just play lands from your opponent's top of their deck if they have anything. Otherwise, the infinite with this is with Cloudstone. Basically, you would cast him, use Cloudstone to return another colorless creature. That's not an artifact, so you can't. You can return like an Eldrazi or like a Wandering Archaic or something, and then cast the Archaic for free. If you have the Rakdos out, you need Rakdos is the main infinite combo enabler. So you need Rakdos plus Cloudstone plus a colorless creature. You would return a colorless creature, play it again, return this, recast this, target an opponent, and you can literally mill and deck out everyone of their entire deck, and leave them with nothing. So that's another infinite right there. Warm Coil, just a good card. Sometimes you need the lifelink. Not much to say there. Sires, really good disruption card, especially for those players that are just drawing a ton. Or if you're like behind, or you want to slow down the game, or if you popped out a bunch of creatures on the board and your opponents are tapped out, you play this, you wipe out their hand, and they just can't deal with your board anymore. So good way to kind of play disruption is with Sires of Insanity. Combos well with Tigrid, so those two together make it very hard for your opponent to deal with your board. Not Spine Dragon, just to draw a million cards if you need it. Hopefully you draw something good. You draw a bunch of Eldrazi's, you play them, and basically it kind of helps you if you're coming from behind. If you're only got a couple cards left in your hand, kind of helps you refill it, and yeah, an overall a good card. Some people say it's a win more card, but I mean, I've played it, and sometimes I'm behind. It helps me turn the game around when I'm behind, so not too bad. RuneScape, RuneScarred, sorry. I don't know why I call it RuneScape. RuneScarred Dragon, or Demon, sorry. Just a tutor, really. Cheap 2-mana tutor if you get him out. He's not that great. You can honestly cut him and play something else, but I just have him in there for now. This card, pretty good. You can also go somewhat infinite with this card. Maybe not in this deck as much, but you can basically sack an Eldrazi, search an Eldrazi, play an Eldrazi, sack an Eldrazi. You get the idea. You basically can kind of um, go somewhat infinite as long as you have life to pay for it. Um, the two Eldrazi's that you're usually going to sacrifice is the big Kozilek and um, the big Ugamog, because those can shuffle themselves back into the deck, which is what you need. So you shuffle those back, you search them again, recast them, and basically go off from there. Or, Rise of Catherine just basically search for any card that you need in the deck. So, good card overall. Muijin of another good disruption card, comes in with a counter. You can remove that counter anytime. Basically makes your opponent discard their entire hand. Combos well with Tigrid. And yeah, you basically want to get rid of their answers so that they can't deal with your board state, and hopefully you win from there. Archon of Cruelty, just a card I like. I really like it. I wanted to build a modern Esper control deck with the Archon of Cruelty, but um, I decided not to because I'm better at just playing regular control than a combo deck here. Archon has some kind of like a mini Eldrazi, like it forces your opponent to sacrifice, you draw, you attack. So it's got like a mini annihilation trigger, so it's not too bad. Helps you recover life and to deal some extra damage. Yeah, just a good card. Um, not too much to say about it, to be honest. Void Whittler, sure you can't even with this card, so yeah, just another payoff that you can play. Um, Another good Eldrazi, and the final are just the three big Eldrazi. I do have the other Kozilek, but I didn't really like him too much. The one that draws you 7 and acts as a counter spell. And I also have Emrakul. But I decided these are just good enough. The main ones you want to cast are these two ones, because they got Annihilator. They can put themselves back in the deck, and you can kind of recast them and stuff. He's just good, just annoying because exiling two things is pretty good, and just indestructible. So those are the payoffs there. Next off, we are going to go ahead and go into the spells. Let me find somewhere to put this. So let's just start off with sorcery stuff. So I don't play too many reanimated cards in this deck, because of the Eldrazi's, they do shuffle your whole graveyard back into the deck. So reanimation in this deck is kind of hard, even though black has really good reanimation cards. So it depends on how you want to build the deck. If you don't play the big Eldrazi, you can definitely play a lot more reanimation. But because I've been playing the big Eldrazi, sometimes it's kind of awkward to draw a reanimator card if you don't have anything in the grave. So I played just the two kind of like the most I guess the best ones for the mana value. So reanimate, you take 10, or reanimate whatever you need for 1 mana, pretty good. Victimize, most of the time I'll sack off a useless pinger or something like that that's not serving any purpose anymore. Or you can even sack off an Eldrazi or something if you need to. Actually, don't sack an Eldrazi, because that would shuffle your deck back, unless you're doing like the smaller Ugamog. But yeah, you sack something off. Hopefully you have like two big payoffs or something in the grave, and get them out with that. Yeah, Demonic Tutor, just because you can tutor for whatever you need. Just one of the best black cards. Next we have a bunch of draw cards, because this deck runs out of cards really quickly, and I'm kind of greedy on my land base. I don't play that much lands, because oftentimes you just need to get to 4 or maybe 5, 6 lands, and you should be set, because Rakdos will reduce cards, so you don't need that much lands. But at the same time, sometimes you'll get land stuck, and you just will lose off of that. So yeah, playing as all the good cheap black draw cards here. I used to play Necropotence, but Necropotence in this deck is just kind of hard to play, because if you play it, you need to pay life for it, and this deck doesn't have that much ways to recover life. And yeah, it's just a little too difficult in this particular deck to play the Necropotence as I played. The two other red spells, you don't even have to play this. You can play something else. Because I was trying to make a little bit, to add a little bit of reanimation to the deck, which is why I'm just playing this, just to kind of pitch some cards into the grave and to kind of reanimate things a little bit quicker. But yeah, or to draw whatever you need or whatever. So yeah, really good commander card. Jessica's Will. I usually call it Jessica's Will, but Jessica Will, I think. Yeah, just a good impulse draw, good ramp card. Most of the time it gets countered. A lot of people will always counter this thing. Um, just a good red card there. And then kind of my board wipes here. You don't really want to play too many. You don't really need that many. And sometimes you can shuffle these back because of the Eldrazi, or you can search them out with your other cards. So, Blasphemous and Toxic Deluge, probably the most mana efficient ones. I like playing mana efficient cards because the rest of the deck is already expensive to play because you have a bunch of really expensive payoffs. So, trying to find the most efficient, low cost draw cards, low cost sorcery stuff because this can't be reduced. None of this crap can be reduced except for Blasphemous. So none of the sorcery you can't really cheat any of this out. So just play the most efficient sorcery stuff that you can find, efficient removal, and then just save all your mana to kind of play your big payoffs. Next off would just be I don't play that miniature removal, um, because I'm just trying to be the arch enemy. So I usually will die pretty quickly if I do go off. That's just kind of the fun of it. You just go off and then people just try to target you. Um, it, yeah, removal could be whatever you want. Deflecting SWAT is good. You can play if you're playing against a heavy blue um, group. My group do play a lot of counter spells, so you can play like um, Pyroblast or the other red mana counter spell for blue cards. You can play that. Um, you can play any of the black removal. Black has a lot of instant removal. You can play the free one, I forgot what it's called, the 4 mana free one if you have your commander out or whatever. I just decided that this is what I'm gonna play just to cover my bases. Charm here, it's meant to deal damage to everyone. If they have a big board, you can deal damage and reduce stuff for free, or you can exile a grave. Sometimes that is relevant. Exiling someone's grave at instant speed sometimes is relevant, or you can just destroy an artifact or something that's annoying. Same thing with this, just kind of generic to play and kind of destroy something there. And Chaos Warple, obviously pretty generic removal. Next off is gonna be our ramps, ramp spells and stuff like that. Um, Let me kind of work around the camera here. Yeah. So I do have some pretty expensive, or in terms of money, ramps cards, but honestly, you don't really need to play some of these ramp cards because um, they're whatever's. They're colorless for the most part, and so you might not be able to use them that well to cast Rakdos because Rakdos doesn't use any generic mana to cast. You need double red, double black. Unless he went back to the command zone and you're paying the commander tax, then you can use some of these ramps to recast him. But most of the time, I use the ramp to kind of hard cast some of my payoffs as soon as possible without the Rakdos. So I got the Chrome Mox. Yeah, just imprint something. Usually, I'll just imprint a black card or something like that and try to ramp up early. I have the Mana Crypt here. Really good card. Just be careful because you will kill yourself with this thing sooner than if you don't pay attention to it, it will kill you. Same thing with Mana Vault. Just some of your explosive mana there, and then just the kind of let me show you some of the basic other ramp. So you have Signet. Because playing red and black, you don't have that much cards to ramp. Unlike green, where you can ramp with lands, red and black doesn't really have any way to ramp except for impulse ramp, which is like Jessica's Will or some sort of impulse red card or like Dark Ritual or something like that. In this deck, I already minus myself so much that I don't think I want to play any of the impulse ramp, so I decided to play more artifact ramp. Even though artifact ramp is susceptible to removal, like with uh, Vanner Blast or is it Vanner? Yeah, Bondo Blast, I guess. Bondo Blast, yeah, Bondo Blast. You know, Commander Oof, stuff like that. So there's a lot of artifact hate. So but whatever's. Soul Ring, obviously. Soul Ring, just Soul Ring, most played commander card ever. And then you got your two Rakdos colored artifact filter and pain land. And then you got this crypto land right here, the one that mines for crypto coins. So basically, um, yeah, you tap it, you deal 1 damage to everyone. So it's also a pinger, which is nice. Taps for any color. I don't think I've ever in my like, I don't know, 50 games with this deck have I ever flipped this thing. So I don't even know what the backside even does. I probably never um, cared to flip it, I guess. But I mean, if that ever comes up. Then I have Lightning Greaves. I was playing Boots before too, but I didn't really care for the Boots as much. The Greave here is just to try to protect your commander. I guess it's just kind of one of. It's doesn't really matter too much. I used to play a lot of other cards, other creatures that are that need to attack in order to get value. I decided to not really play that much creatures anymore that attack to get value. So I used to play like Hellkite Tyrant, all these creatures that if you have haste, you attack and you get value with them. I decided to go more for of a casting style Rakdos deck rather than cast and attack Rakdos deck here. And the final card is the Infinite Enabler. This thing is, and people don't think about it. You play it. If they don't remove it, most of the time this thing will like kind of get so much value that you'll kind of overwhelm your opponent with the Cloudstone here. So my friends learn their lesson. Every time they see this freaking card, they'll just try to get rid of it as soon as possible, or they'll just try to kill me. So yeah, just be careful. I wouldn't play it unless you have a way to go combo off of it or get some value. If you just play it on the board and leave it there, it's gonna get removed. So yeah. Next off for enchantments, I made a lot of different changes to the enchantments, but I kind of reduced it down. So we got the Phyrexian Reclamation here, and this is basically just kind of just bring back a card from your graveyard to your hand to recast it like for the value and stuff. Kind of like a reanimator card, but you're kind of cast it from your hand rather than reanimate from the graveyard. Um, it's not that great, but you can play whatever. Sanctum, a really good 2 mana enabler. Just deals 1 to everyone, and you heal 1. So if you have this and Phyrexian Arena, you're basically drawing a free card per turn and dealing 1 damage. Speaking of which, I got Phyrexian Arena here. And these two on the board are just kind of funny, but Court of Ambition, kind of underrated card, but kind of expensive too, because it is 4 mana. So you won't be able to cast this and then cast Rakdos efficiently. So, but this is pretty good. It forces your opponent to discard stuff or take a ton of damage. So kind of annoying. And you become Monarch. So the Monarch does put a target on you if you do somehow keep Monarch. But most of the time, Monarch gets passed around like AIDS. So I wouldn't be worried too much about the whole Monarch thing. And then just a sneak attack as kind of like your secondary way to cheese in some stuff. So you can kind of cheese in like a Razakaf or cheese in an Eldrazi and smack someone with Annihilator 4, stuff like that. So and it's uncounterable when you cheese it in. So yeah, just a good card there. Next off, I think I just playing one Planeswalker Chandra, just kind of a pinger of a 4 mana rock, I guess. And occasionally you will get to ult with her. I have ult with her a few times, and just people just leave it there. They either they can't get to her, or they gotta deal with other stuff. So she takes kind of low priority. You can probably also play Anger, or not Anger. Is Anger? The Minotaur guy. He's 5 mana. You uptick. Everyone discards 1, takes 2. You can also play that, or you can play some other Planeswalker if you want to. I'm not playing too many because they're hard to protect in a EDH game, unless you're going wide. If you're not going wide, like this deck doesn't go wide. This deck goes tall. What I mean by that is you're making really big creatures. You're not really spreading your creatures out, so it's hard to protect a planeswalker in this particular deck. So um, yeah. Next off, just go for the lands here, and then that will be it. So I just got some of my utility lands. They're colorless. They're not too good for casting Rakdos, but they're just basically um, utility. So Homeward Path is pretty good. I definitely like this because I think every commander deck should play Homeward or like a Maze is if or something like that. Just so when if they try to steal your commander, try to steal your board, or reanimate your stuff, you can just tap this, get your creatures back, stuff like that. Or if they go insurrection or something like that, um, they try to kill you, then you can just tap this and be safe for the turn. Urza Saga, I'm pretty sure you know what this does. You may use it to kind of fetch your Soul Ring or your Mana Crypt or whatever you want. Um, yeah, just a good land. Cavern of Souls. You don't really need this. I play this because I know my commander will get countered a lot. So oftentimes I'll call out demons or I'll call out an Eldrazi. So those are the two main things you'll call is either demons or Eldrazi, just to make sure you can cast your commander without getting countered. Or if you have your commander out already, you can play this and then just call out Eldrazi, and then um, they'll be uncounterable. Ancient Tomb, just to deal two to yourself, ramp yourself up a little bit. Wreck Tower. Sometimes you do draw a lot. Sometimes you draw a ton of cards with like the Spinal or whatever. Um, yeah, or if someone plays a Jintaxia or something like that, having this out will kind of save your butt there. So, um, not the greatest utility land. You could probably play another land instead of this, but I just have it in there. Wanderer's Enclave. Just another draw card. To kind of replenish your hand. Occasionally, someone will play like my friend plays Simic, so sometimes he'll play like a card that will allow everyone to untap their lands every turn or something like that. So like if they have that, you can just tap this, draw a card, untap it. You can draw up to 3 or 4 cards for like a rotation or something like that. Or if you're running low on steam and you just have extra mana laying around, because most of the time you're not gonna be using your mana to cast your playoffs, so you oftentimes will have open mana, and we're not really playing too much interaction. So Bonner's Enclave is kind of a cheap way to draw you a card. You can also play like War Room or Castle Lochthwain as your other draw cards. I'm not playing those because those drain you of your life, and there's not much ways to kind of recover life in this deck, and we do deal a lot of damage to ourselves sometimes. And then Sanctum of Ugin, sorry. If you have this and you cast a Eldrazi, you can just sack it, search for another Eldrazi, play it. Yeah, just a good tutor card for big mana Eldrazi. Or you can even search for like a whatchamacallit, All to Dust if you wanted to as a board wipe. I used to play Ives Ugin, and you can also play that if you wanted to. You can tap 7 mana if you have to, and then search for an Eldrazi, or just reduce your Eldrazi by 2. So, yeah, the mana is just kind of, or the land base is kind of open to whatever you want to do. And on my tapped out account, I've kind of made a huge maybe board, so you can look at all the cards that I've considered over the years, or I've tested and played with, and yeah, just kind of pick and choose and to kind of give you some ideas for this particular deck. Next off, I'm playing the Urborg. Just give your lands black, your red, your mountains and stuff black. I'm not playing the Cabal. I do have Cabal, but I'm not playing in this deck because I'm not playing too many swamps, and I don't really have a way to search out these lands. So if you play Cabal, it kind of sucks if that's like your third or fourth land, because then you won't be able to cast Rakdos. So it's up to you if you want to do the Cabal and Urborg combo or not. Shizo, just to make some of your stuff unblockable to get the damage in, basically. Um, Shizo and Ragavan is really popular in Modern, and you play this with Ragavan, you always get to hit your opponent's face with Ragavan. That's another card you can play in this deck. I just haven't felt the need to buy Ragavan. If I were to buy Ragavan, I'd play him in my modern deck versus play him in my EDH deck. Um, this is another land that can be, or it can be played as a land. Most of the time, I'll combo this off with like um, a Dark Side Extortionist or something like that. They attack me, I'll block with this Extortionist. Now I'll play this on the Extortionist. Extortionist comes back, gives me like 10 more mana. So yeah, just kind of fun utility land that you can play. Um, Agadeem's Awakening, just another sort of um, reanimation card if you need to. Oftentimes you don't um, play it as a spell. You'll oftentimes play it as a land, but if you need to, you can play it as a spell. Then you got your Bajuka Ball because there's still a lot of it's commander, so there's still a lot of people that use their graveyard as a resource. So Bajuka Bob, and if you could Bajuka Bob someone that has a ton of like fetch lands or a ton of lands in their graveyard, you can Bajuka Bob them, and then play your 6 mana Eldrazi and then just steal all their lands. So just kind of a fun combo-ish. Spiral Null Rock or Spire and Rock Null. Yeah, oftentimes I'll just shove an Eldrazi down here if I do get lucky, and then if someone deals some damage, you just play this, tap it, and cast the Eldrazi for free, or whatever payoff you want. It's just a good card. Here, next is just the dual lands. You got Blood Crypt, Dragon Skull. You got a Pain land, Filter land, a Taint land. This is Battle lands, I think. The new land, the slow land, I guess. I'm not playing the fast land. The was it Black Cleave Caverns or whatever. I'm not playing the fast lands. I'm playing every other like dual color lands that I can find that I can fit in this deck. You're playing the Flip land, the Pathway lands, Command Tower. There's a bunch of other lands you can play. You can play like Reflecting Pool. You can play, all those other um, dual color lands. None of these are too expensive, I think, except for the luxury suite. But everything else is pretty affordable. So, and yeah, I'm only playing 2 fetch lands. You can play any fetch lands you want that can search for a red or a black. I just happen to have these, so and they're the expedition ones, so I just wanted to play them because they match up. So, um, yeah, you got the fetch lands. Fetching in Commander is not very important unless you're playing like a 4 or 5 color deck. I'm playing 2 colors, so fetching is not really important. If you have a budget, definitely spend that budget somewhere else. Don't buy fetch lands. It's not really worth it. You're thinning your deck out for less than 1% of a card. Some people say deck thinning is deck winning, which it is, but in Commander, it's like you're fitting one card for like $40. It's not really worth it. And last off, yeah, I just got 5 of each basics. Namely, because sometimes you'll play against like a back to basics deck or something like that. Um, and yeah, you're just gonna need some of this. This in case you're playing against a Blood Moon. Ironically, I don't know. You could technically play Blood Moon in this deck if you want to. I decided not to. Um, I don't play too many stacks cards. Just because. I just want to play the game, and I want the game. If I'm gonna lose, I'd rather just have the game end quickly than sit there for 20 turns and can't break parity, and you guys are just sitting there and drawing cards and not do anything. So I'm not really playing too many stacks cards, but you can build this deck however it is, however you want. There's a lot of good red and black cards. But yeah, so that's basically it for my Rakdos EDH deck. And I think I already spoke about some of the combos, but let me go ahead and show you. Basically, I think I already showed you that. Combo with this. Yeah, so the combos are just there to kind of help you end the game when you are just behind. But sometimes you can just win with it, but it's not my preferred way to win. I prefer to just play out the game. If it gets to the point where we're not be able to close out the game quickly enough, then yeah, we'll just try to go for the infinites and win off of that. I think that's mainly it, right? So let me check. One other card. card. If I took it out already or not. Yeah, okay. So you're basically right here is kind of like your main. So all this, for the most part, like this requires uh your commander here. So if you have any of this out and you have this, that's an infinite right there. So you either do infinite damage, infinite damage, infinite damage. This with this you make spine the terror deal 3 each time you cast this thing. This one you just deal everyone 2 to everyone's life. This thing you deal 1, untap, deal 1, untap, and basically yeah. So that's one infinite. This one which just requires Cloudstone. So this is infinite mana and this is infinite milling. So with this, if you cast any creatures outside of dark side, it could be anything. Literally, it only requires your commander or your opponent to have a couple of enchantments, and you can cast any creatures you want. Preferably, it's gonna be like a small creature, like you know, something like this. So if you have, you can go dark side, not trigger this, make a bunch of treasure tokens, play a spear, trigger the Cloudstone, return the dark side, then recast the dark side again with your treasure tokens, maybe return the spear again, spend a treasure token, play the spear, return the dark side. You get the idea. Basically, it will generate you infinite treasures, basically infinite mana, as long as your opponent has some sort of enchantments or artifact, which is this is EDH. I mean, you're playing as 4 players. There's gonna be a lot of enchantments and artifacts on the board. With the Oblivion Sower, you need something a little bit more specific. You need something like, let me see. You need a colorless creature that's not an artifact. Because if you play an artifact, it won't trigger the Cloudstone. So this, for example, so with this particular infinite, you will need Rakdos. So basically, you can cast if you're. So you need Rakdos, you need him to reduce everything by at least 6 colorless. So usually you can swing him with Rakdos, and that's enough to make this infinite work. So it doesn't matter what you have on the board. You can have one Archaic first or whatever. You cast the Soul, target someone, mill 4, and then trigger the Cloudstone, return the Archaic back to your hand, cast this again, return, trigger the Cloudstone, return the Oblivion, and then yeah, kind of rinse repeat. And basically, you can deck someone out completely, and you can win that way. You can win through a deck out, win through infinite mana. You have infinite treasure tokens. You can cast your whole hand, do whatever, or you can do infinite damage. So those are some of the infinites in this deck that just happen to be a thing, and those are some lines of play you can play. Obviously, that's not my preferred way to win. But they are there. My preferred way to win is obviously just by, playing a bunch of Eldrazi and kind of beating down my opponent. But yeah, so not much else to say there. I run a total of 34 lands. You can kind of change the mana base however you want. It can be more expensive. It can be more cheap. Same thing with the mana rocks. Some of them are pretty expensive. I probably wouldn't recommend you spending like $200 on a mana crypt or anything like that. If you got the money, then go for it. If you don't, spend it elsewhere. Same thing with the Eldrazi. Eldrazi can be kind of expensive. You can play different payoffs. You can play, you can build this deck with that's focused more on combat. So you can play a bunch of haste enablers, and you can cast stuff and then just turn sideways and attack your opponent. So yeah, plenty of ways to play this deck. You can even do reanimation with Rakdos, or stuff like that. So not much else to say. Hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you guys next time.